I recently spent some time watching amateur matches and reflecting on some of the mistakes that I used to make when I played position as a less experienced player. I noticed some common issues, took some notes, and this is what I'm going to be discussing today. 5 common positional mistakes to avoid. The first thing on my list is not considering your ability to reach a shot. I saw this happen multiple times in a single match where a player was only thinking about how to get ideal shape but not really considering their own physical limitations. This position would be great if you were left-handed, but you're right-handed, and now you can't reach the shot. This forces you to use the bridge, shoot left-handed, or stretch across the entire table, making it quite likely for you to miss your mark on the cue ball, which is going to result in poor position, a missed ball, or a miscue. You spend a lot of time developing your normal stroke, so when possible you should opt to use it. Play a position that lets you shoot naturally. So in this scenario, it's better to opt for the sharper cut, which allows you to shoot with your normal stroke. Second on my list is not leaving enough angle, and I think this comes from 2 trains of thought. The first being that the player is only thinking one ball ahead in the rack. They don't realize that they needed an angle until it's already too late. The second train of thought comes from players who are more worried about making the next ball than getting good shape. Perhaps they feel uncomfortable with the sharper cut and instead decide to leave a bit less angle. This forces them to come up with a big stroke to get the cue ball to where it needs to be. But in games like 9-ball and 10-ball, angles are your best friend. If you're uncomfortable with some of these sharper cuts, you need to practice them. They aren't that much harder to pocket and will make getting shape and moving the cue ball much easier. In this scenario, leaving a lot of angle on the 8 makes getting position on the 9-ball automatic. All you have to do now is worry about pocketing the 8-ball. Number 3 on my list is players just trying to do something that is, well, impossible. I used to do this quite a bit when I really started learning position play. I would plan out a rack in my head. I would get slightly out of shape, making my previous plan to play a simple stop shot nearly, if not completely, impossible. Yet I would still find myself trying to pinch stop the cue ball with a ton of spin, when all I needed to do was change my plan. You need to learn to accept what the table gives you. It's great to make a plan and think 2 to 3 balls ahead, but you have to be ready to change that plan. In this scenario, instead of trying to force the cue ball to stop, all I had to do was accept the little bit of extra angle I got and use it to my advantage. Play with bottom and draw over to the long rail to shoot the 9-ball in the same corner pocket, or play with top and bounce off of the short rail and back out to play the 9-ball in the opposite corner pocket. Similar in this situation, it's tempting to slow roll this ball with outside to try and get it to stop for the 9-ball in the opposite corner, but it's much easier if you just accept the extra angle and just play position on the opposite side of the 9-ball. Number 4 on my list is trying to do too much with the cue ball when there are much simpler options available. You're not going to be able to get ideal position on every shot that you shoot. It's okay to accept a tougher shot on the next ball if it means your overall chance of getting out of the rack or winning the game is higher. In this example, I'm shooting the 4 with a slight angle that will be sending the cue ball down towards the 5. What would you play in this situation? Take a few seconds to pause the video and think about it. At first, it can be tempting to play position on the 5 between the 6 and 9, but the window is so narrow that a slight over or under hit will result in me snookering myself. Another option is to roll the cue ball forward with follow and try and stop it for position in the bottom left corner pocket, but this shot is also extremely demanding on your speed control. The easiest, and in my opinion the correct choice, is to play a soft rolling cue ball and leave a somewhat thin cut on the 5-ball, because the position is automatic. Sure, it forces you to play the 5-ball with a bit of outside to get shape on the 6, and the ball isn't as easy to make, but your overall chances of getting out of the rack are much higher than playing a 50-50 positional shot. The main takeaway from this point is to not play for position that you already have. There's no sense in taking on the extra risk when the position is already automatic. The final thing on my list today is trying to utilize precision speed control versus simply picking a point on the rail to kill the cue ball. This one is a little ambiguous, so I think it would be best to just show an example of what I mean. In this scenario, we have what should be a pretty easy out. The 8 is an easy pocket, and you can easily pull the cue ball back with bottom outside spin to get shape on the 9-ball in the corner pocket. One of the key differences here though, in how a newer player would play position versus a player with a bit more experience would play position, is the line that they choose to send the cue ball. I find that inexperienced players will simply strike this with bottom outside, knowing that it will come back in the direction that they want it to, and they have an idea of where they want it to stop, but they leave that up to their speed control. If you hit this at the perfect speed, it comes back and stops for a dead straight shot on the 9-ball, with plenty of distance from the rail. That's great if you hit it at the precise speed that you need to. But this shot is really easy to overhit because you're crossing the position line instead of coming into it. A more experienced player will think about the point on the second rail that they want to hit. For me in this scenario, it's going to be slightly above the pocket line with the 9-ball. Hitting it this way, I have a much wider margin for error in my speed control, which greatly increases my chances of getting out of the rack. Playing good position can really be summed down into a few simple rules. First, leave yourself on the right side of the shot line and with enough angle to get the cue ball to where you need it to go next. And don't just think about position on your next ball, but think about the ideal position on your next ball that would get you to the ball after that as well. Accept what the table gives you, and finally, keep it simple when you can. And if you're struggling to pocket balls, then check out this video where I discuss 5 more reasons you keep missing shots that I just published a few weeks before this video. I'm going to be trying to publish weekly, so consider subscribing if you like the content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.